Con motivo a las primarias, las cuales se llevarán a cabo el día 26 de abril de este año en curso, WLSH, Radio Centro y Telecentro han producido segmentos especiales titulados Camino a las primarias de Pensilvania. Este año se va a elegir un congresista por el Distrito 16 de Pensilvania. Este distrito incluye gran parte del condado de Lancaster, una parte del condado de Chester y una pequeña sección del condado Berks, incluyendo a la ciudad de Reading. El congresista actual, Joe Pitt, se va a retirar a fines de este año. Hay 2 demócratas y 2 republicanos quienes se han postulado para las primarias. Hemos grabado entrevistas a los candidatos y a todos se les ha hecho las mismas preguntas. Hoy tenemos la entrevista con la demócrata Christina Hartman, una asesora a muchas organizaciones a nivel internacional y en Estados Unidos y en las áreas de comunicaciones, planificación y recaudación de fondos.
With the upcoming primary in Pennsylvania that will be held April 26, WLCH, Radio Centro, and Telecentro have produced some segments that we have titled Road to the Pennsylvania Primary. This year in our area, we will elect a congressperson for the 16th Congressional District. The current congressperson, Mr. Joe Pitts, announced that he will not be seeking re-election for this year. As a result, on April 26, Democrats and Republicans will be selecting individuals to replace Mr. Pitts in the November election. We have contacted all the candidates and their interviews were recorded. All of them have been asked the same series of questions. Today we present Christina Hartman, a Democratic candidate, a consultant to many organizations in communications, fundraising, and strategic planning. Ms. Hartman, I will first ask the questions in English, and then my colleague, Mr. Valdez, will present your responses in Spanish. Ms. Hartman, can you provide a brief background about yourself and why do you want to be the U.S. Congressperson from the 16th District?
Sure. So maybe I'll start with the first question. Why do I want to do this position that so many people don't necessarily want to do? I think we all see the same thing, which is a lot of dysfunction in Congress and in Washington. And I think most folks just want to make sure that something's getting done. And so I've got a lot of great skills that I've learned over the years through my work overseas in other countries and my work on human rights and democracy work that has led me to a place where I can contribute bringing folks to the table, making compromise, and really delivering for the people of this district real results, which they haven't seen for quite some time. So that's one of the reasons that I'm running. A little bit about my background, as I just mentioned, for 16 years, I worked, again, supporting folks around the world to do what Lancaster always taught me to do, which is to build strong community and to make sure our people in those communities have voice. So I worked in Central Asia, I worked in Sub-Saharan Africa and the Middle East, doing just that.
Nuestra pregunta para la aspirante a congresista Christina Hartman es que queremos conocer un poquito sobre ella. Dice que primeramente ella quiere comenzar por dejar saber por qué ella quiere correr o aspirar a ser congresista. Dice que como todos vemos en Washington muchísimas cosas con las que no estamos de acuerdo. Ella dice que es una persona que entiende que puede contribuir y traer temas que le preocupan a nuestra comunidad sobre la mesa. Dice que hablando un poquito acerca de su trayectoria y de aquellas razones que la califican a ella para esta posición, dice que ella lleva 16 años ayudando lo que ella ha aprendido, ayudar a crear comunidades fuertes, y dice que puede hacer lo mismo en este distrito para el cual ella estará corriendo, aspirando a ser congresista.
For our urban areas in Pennsylvania and really around the U.S., how do we create a viable future for those areas that promote progress and economic development?
Sure. So I think those are a number of really good points about what's going on here in the district, in Lancaster, in Reading, and Coatesville, which are 3 main urban areas in the district. So I think most folks, as I've traveled around the district for the past 9 months, have told me that education and jobs are the 2 most important things to them. And those 2 things link to our economic development. So making sure that our children have strong education, not just through K through 12, but also opportunities after that, whether that's job training, apprenticeships, or four-year education, and an affordable four-year education. And then making sure that we continue to support the small and medium-sized businesses that are the backbone of our economy here in Lancaster, in Reading, and Coatesville, to, again, make sure that folks have jobs, that those jobs pay a living wage, and I think that's how we're going to help folks to move forward.
Ok, la segunda pregunta es para las áreas urbanas en Pensilvania a través de los Estados Unidos que carecen de crecimiento económico, ¿cómo podemos crear un futuro viable donde se pueda promover el progreso y el desarrollo económico en las comunidades? Y ahí dice que los números en las áreas de Lancaster, Burke y el área que cubre este distrito para el cual ella está corriendo, dice que a través de todos estos distritos ella se ha dado cuenta que hay dos cosas muy importantes: educación, trabajo y desarrollo económico. Dice que ella abogará porque los estudiantes o nuestros jóvenes tengan una buena educación y luego de esta buena educación tener oportunidades de trabajo, un trabajo en el cual ellos ganen un salario competitivo y que tengan o surjan más oportunidades, crear las oportunidades para estos jóvenes.
How do we protect the U.S. from individuals and organizations that are intent in harming us?
That's a great question. It's one of the things that's on the minds of a lot of people in the district and around the United States. I think, again, that I bring a great amount of experience from spending time overseas in a lot of countries and understanding what motivates people to want to behave in these sort of manners that we're seeing in ISIS and what we consider just to be, again, very terrorist behavior and detrimental to our society. And so what we know is that these folks that behave in this way do so because they don't have education and economic opportunities. And so as the United States, what we need to do to make sure that we are protected is to continue to advance foreign policy that leads with diplomacy, but also, when necessary, action on the behalf of Pentagon and our armed services. So we need to protect ourselves. We also need to think strategically and, again, diplomatically to better understand how we can both protect ourselves but also encourage other countries to advance their own people in a way that, again, gives them education and jobs.
La siguiente pregunta es: ¿cómo podemos proteger a los Estados Unidos de individuos y organizaciones que tienen como objetivo crear mal? Dice que, como muchas personas aquí en Estados Unidos entienden, dice que para ella, o ella considera que es muy importante saber cuáles son las cosas que motivan a estas personas a actuar como lo están haciendo. Menciona como ejemplo a ISIS. Dice que ella cree mucho en la diplomacia, pero cuando hay que utilizar la fuerza, hacerlo. Pero ella cree que la diplomacia es el primer paso, pero cuando hay que defenderse, hay que defenderse. Pero cree también en crear las relaciones con estos países donde se están creando estos grupos como ISIS, en crear ese tipo de conversación y obviamente de diplomacia antes de.
What are the major environmental issues facing Pennsylvania?
Yeah, there's a lot of environmental issues facing Pennsylvania and, in fact, the country. I think at the top of that list are clean water and clean air. We all want to make sure that our children and our families have clean air and clean air to breathe and clean water to drink. And we know that in many of our communities, unfortunately, that's not the case. Or just that it's in jeopardy. And so we want to make sure that we're supporting initiatives that ensure that our water is tested so that we don't end up with a situation like Flint, Michigan, and that, again, that our children have clean air to breathe so that they're not suffering the ill effects of asthma and other things that we know are caused by pollution.
La siguiente pregunta es, ¿cuáles son los mayores problemas ambientales que confronta el estado de Pensilvania? Dice que al igual que Pensilvania y muchas áreas en los Estados Unidos, dice que ella cree que se le debe garantizar a nuestros niños agua y aire limpio, que no suceda como ha sucedido en Flint, Michigan. Ella lo utiliza como ejemplo. Dice que nuestros niños necesitan tener agua y aire limpio y que ella luchará porque eso se pueda lograr aquí en Pensilvania. Yo quisiera, Wilfredo, si es posible, añadir un poquito a esa pregunta. Quizás, ¿en qué posición está ella con lo de la extracción de gas en Pensilvania? Que como todos sabemos, eso tarde o temprano va a afectar quizás algunos acuíferos o el suministro de agua en Pensilvania.
What's your position on fracking?
So my position on fracking is that we need to make sure that the companies who are doing the fracking are held accountable for the environmental damage that they're causing. And we want to make sure that we're sure that that's the decision that we want to make about tampering with our land. As we all know, here in the 16th District, in Lancaster, Chester, and Berks counties, the land is very important to people here. And being good stewards of that land is incredibly important. So many people who own land here feel like it's their God-given right to protect that land and their duty to do so. So again, we want to make sure that if there's a pipeline running through our counties, that's done in a way that's safe, again, protecting our water supply, and that we know all the risks that are associated with that, and that we, as necessary, are taxing the companies for the usage of that land because it does not belong to them.
Dice que en cuanto a la pregunta que le hizo Wilfredo sobre cuál es su posición en cuanto a la extracción de gas en Pensilvania, dice que sobre todo hay que estar seguro de que estas compañías que están haciendo esta extracción de gas en Pensilvania estén obedeciendo las reglas de lo que es el medio ambiente, las reglas de los estados. El distrito 16 dice que hay terrenos muy valiosos en esta área, personas que son dueños deben asegurarse de que las personas que están haciendo esta extracción están respetando las leyes de los estados. Y también se mencionó, ella mencionó acerca de la tubería que se planea traer a Pensilvania. Lo mismo, que estas personas estén seguras de lo que están haciendo, que obedezcan las reglas y sobre todo que paguen los impuestos que deben pagar. Ya creo que es justo y necesario que esto se haga y que abogara por ello.
How do we create a functional immigration system for the United States? And what will we do with the approximately 11 million individuals categorized as undocumented?
Well, that's a really big question. Revamping the immigration system is an important point and one that has been on the table for a long time. We definitely need we need immigration reform as the bottom line, and we need to make sure that the 11 million undocumented workers or undocumented folks in this country have a path to citizenship. So we want to make sure that all those people have a viable way to become citizens because they're already paying taxes. They're already, many of them, they're already a part of our country and our country's fabric, which is the country of immigrants. So my great-grandparents are immigrants, and so many people in this country are. And while we understand that these people may have come here illegally for whatever reason, they're here now. And what we want to do is make sure that there's a clear path to citizenship.
La próxima pregunta es cómo se crea en Estados Unidos un sistema de inmigración que tenga un buen funcionamiento y qué se debe hacer con los 11 millones de personas residiendo en Estados Unidos y considerados indocumentados. Dice que definitivamente necesitamos una reforma migratoria, que estas personas, estos 11 millones de personas que mencionamos, tengan un camino hacia una reforma migratoria justa. Son personas que ya son parte de este país. Este país ha sido construido en base a los inmigrantes. Sus abuelos, ella menciona a sus abuelos, son inmigrantes. Y que las personas que están en este país ya forman parte de este país, básicamente. Y que definitivamente una reforma migratoria es necesaria.
There's a strong belief that there's a school-to-prison pipeline, especially for many Black and Latino kids in the United States. First of all, do you agree? And if so, what policies do we need to develop to create pathways of success for the youth?
Yeah, I think that the perception that pipeline exists is real, and I think that we need to work again through, and folks have said it for ages, so people have said education is the pathway to success. So how do we really make the change? And I think some folks here in Lancaster have been working on that for a while. the work here at SACA, for example, or other the Poverty Commission headed by the mayor and some other folks in downtown Lancaster. So we're looking for ways to resolve those issues, both through education, but also providing support. I think the answer lies in providing community support, and so making sure that folks have the tools that they need while they're in school, or their parents have the tools that they need to, again, to help their children along the way, because we know that those are often single parent households or impoverished households where the children are suffering from malnutrition in the morning, so they're not ready for school that day. There's a number of factors that influence their ability to get a good education, and then once again helping them in their later school years to make sure that they have a pathway to a job so that they can be successful instead of that pathway to prison. So again, community support and support from those in our community.
Dice que hay una fuerte creencia de que existe un puente de escuela a prisión. Para muchos adolescentes afroamericanos y latinos en Estados Unidos, ¿está de acuerdo? Si es así, ¿qué estrategias se deben desarrollar para crear caminos de éxito para estos jóvenes? Dice ella que esta percepción es real, que hay que trabajar con los jóvenes, también con los padres en Lancaster. Ella menciona como ejemplo al Centro Hispano, SACA, la Comisión para Combatir la Pobreza. Son ejemplos que nos dan la seguridad de que nuestros jóvenes van a tener las herramientas necesarias. Entonces son solamente los jóvenes, las madres, los padres de estudiantes, todas las herramientas necesarias para una buena educación, alimentación, pero ella dice que cree muy fielmente en el apoyo comunitario en las ciudades y que ella continuará apoyando estas iniciativas como las de SACA y otras organizaciones de la comunidad.
For many individuals, higher education is an obvious necessity for pursuing a profession, a technical career, yet the burdensome debt they encounter has become an obstacle for many young people in trying to achieve their goals. Is there anything that we should do to alleviate this dilemma?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's two things that we can do to alleviate this dilemma. I think we need to look at more federal funding for Pell Grants and other need-based scholarship programs that support folks that want to achieve a particular dream and support them to do so. And then also to make sure that folks who do incur debt, so I had school loans, my husband has them, where we participate in that system, to be able to renegotiate their interest rates in the same way that you can renegotiate your mortgage rate. So to make sure that they're paying less when possible, and that that companies aren't making a massive profit off of the interest from education loans. It's a really important way for us to reduce the burden on individuals, but also it impacts the economy writ large. So if you're burdened with student debt, then that means you can't afford a down payment on a home, for example. So it's going to impact our economy in other ways, and I'm very concerned actually for the next 10 to 20 years and what student loan debt will actually mean for our economy as a whole.
La pregunta dice, para muchos individuos la educación universitaria es una necesidad para tener una carrera profesional o técnica, pero el alto costo y la deuda que resulta de estos estudios se está convirtiendo en un obstáculo para lograr sus metas. ¿Hay algo que se puede hacer para aliviar esta situación? Y dice que hay dos cosas que ella opina. Más fondos federales para educación, habla también sobre los préstamos estudiantiles que se puedan renegociar, como usted puede renegociar los préstamos para una vivienda. Dice que muchas compañías están haciendo demasiado dinero con estos préstamos estudiantiles. Ella cree que más fondos federales y más ayuda para estos préstamos, y que estos sean préstamos que se puedan renegociar, son la clave para poder lograrlo.
Estimates from the Office of the Actuary of the Social Security Administration indicates that by 2035, the Social Security system will be insolvent, basically that there will be less money coming into the system, thus the Social Security system will not be able to meet its financial obligations to all those Americans that are under that system. Do you have any strategies to be able to deal with that situation?
Sure. So first, I'd start by saying that this has been a problem that we've been facing and have known about since at least 1995 when I entered college, because I remember it was the Clinton administration, and at the time, Capitol Hill was spending their time talking about this problem that we would have when the baby boomers turned of age. So unfortunately, those on Capitol Hill have been kicking the can down the road since at least 1995, and we've known this problem is coming. I think what's important is that we continue to make sure that the people who have paid into the system can get that money. I think that there's many folks in my generation who have paid into the system, but who don't hold their breath that they're going to get that money. But we need to make sure that they do, because that's part of the agreement. And also there are many people, such as my grandfather, who counted on that money when he was in his later years. And so we need to make sure that that money is protected and available, looking for sensible reforms in the system. But again, this is a system that was created by Lyndon Johnson. It's one of the hallmarks of our American system, and we want to make sure that it's there for future generations.
La siguiente pregunta es la siguiente. Wilfredo Laizo, según el jefe de la oficina del actuario de la Administración de Seguridad Social, indica que para el año 2035 el sistema de seguro social estará insolvente. Básicamente no habrá suficiente dinero para cubrir el sistema y sus gastos. ¿Cuáles son sus estrategias para salvaguardar el sistema de seguro social? Primeramente dice que este es un problema que recuerde desde 1995 por lo menos, cuando el presidente Clinton dice que cuando ella comenzó a estudiar ya conocía de este problema. Decía que es importante que las personas que están pagando por esta seguridad social reciban este dinero, el cual han estado pagando toda su vida, cuando llegue el momento de su retiro. Dice que ella cree que hay que asegurarse que este dinero esté seguro para cuando llegue el momento de las personas recuperar el dinero que han pagado, lo puedan recuperar.
Finally, why should Democrats select you as their candidate for the 16th Congressional District of Pennsylvania?
Well, I think going back to my first point, just that Washington's facing a lot of dysfunction right now, and I'm the person that can bring folks to the table, bring folks together, make the compromises and negotiation necessary to produce results. I think that we pay folks a lot of money in Washington to do their job, and we'd like to see the folks in this district, as everywhere in America, would like to see some results, and I'm prepared to deliver those results based on the relationships that I'll build and the negotiation that I'll do in Washington, and we'll stand up for this district. As you know, Lancaster, Berks, and Chester counties are amazing places with great people who just deserve so much more, and I'd be honored to represent them.
La última pregunta, finalmente, si tenemos tiempo, finalmente debemos saber por qué los votantes demócratas deben seleccionarla a usted como candidata para congresista por el Distrito 16 de Pensilvania. Dice ella que vuelve al primer comentario cuando abrimos una entrevista. Dice que Washington está sufriendo demasiadas disfunciones en Washington. Dice que ella producirá resultados para todos los votantes en este distrito y para todo Estados Unidos, y que estará luchando por este distrito y que se considera una persona preparada para esta posición.
Christina Hartman, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
No se olviden que las primarias en Pensilvania se llevarán a cabo el día 26 de abril. Este segmento, Camino a las Primarias de Pensilvania, ha sido una producción especial de Radio Centro y Telecentro.